listen, you've called these games up close. Arizona's had a lot of really good football seasons over the years. But the one thing that's always kind of eluded is being able to string together those back-to-back seasons. When you look at this team, because you've seen great teams up close, you've seen bad teams up close. What do you look at, just, from your bird's eye view from the press box, what did you see?
Well, I like what I see right now, and I think for a lot of reasons. And you start just with the returning talent that's back. In particular, at some of the star positions, I'll call them: quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, defensive backfield, place kicker. You've got some guys that are difference makers on this team. And so if they play to the level that they have been in their Arizona careers thus far, that's going to take care of itself. The NIL and the transfer portal has done a lot to change the landscape of college sports. So nowadays you can go out almost like a professional franchise and find new players, and that fills holes in a hurry. And so I think that's what Brent Brennan and his staff have done. There have been some areas, in particular on the defensive front, I think, where you lost a lot of talent there, and you needed to go out and find some new faces, some new bodies to fill in there. And from what I've seen, they've accomplished exactly that. They may not be household names, but these are guys that have already played college football, and so they're not green freshmen coming in. And from what I've been told, and I'm certainly not an expert, but just watching them in practice, and then when I'm told by the coaches, they feel very confident in some of the new players that they're going to be able to contribute from the outset. And that's going to be the key. Nowadays in college football, you've got to be ready to go from game one. There's not much of a break-in period for talent because of the way the rosters are now structured. So I look at it this way, Mike, and I look at this every year, that if you can stay relatively injury-free, and if your players play up to their expectations, then you got a chance to have a good, if not very good team.
Now, listen, I think there's something that you're purposely avoiding here, Brian Jeffries, that I think we need to talk about here. This is something that you brought up to me on the phone last week, an all-Luke backfield. How exciting would that be with a Caden Luke and a Rayshon Speedy Luke? Brian, let's not act like this hasn't been a massive part of your preparation going forward.
Law firm of Luke, and Luke.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Of course, into this.
But on a serious note, though, Brian.
A serious note, yeah.
Yes. Listen, I think you hit the nail on the head. The one thing about this team is that they obviously they lost some players. Obviously Jonah Coleman, Michael Wiley, DJ Williams. But I'm going to say this, and again, I'm far from an expert as well. I like what Brent Brennan has been able to do. It's kind of the plug in the gaps type thing, and I think he's done a very good job of that. Ja'Cory Krosky might merit a Brian Jeffries mention during the broadcasts, I think, at times.
Well, I think just based on what I've seen so far, Mike, he's going to be their go-to guy in the backfield. Probably their every down kind of back. Speedy Luke is going to play a lot more this year, have a much bigger role. But at the same time, I mean, Speedy is Speedy, but he's not an every down back. He's just not built that way. And so I think Namont and I were talking about this on Saturday night. The best thing about Speedy Luke is his ability in the open field. And so I think you're going to see him in situations where that warrants his talent. He's going to play a lot this year, a lot more than he has the last couple of seasons. But they did plug in some really good running backs, and that was probably a question going into spring ball because of the loss of the three guys you mentioned. Is that how can you? Michael Wiley was just a workhorse,
right?
And I think one of the best Arizona players in a long, long time, just because not only his abilities on the field, but he was a leader, and that's not an easy thing to replace. And DJ Washington was their big back. Jonah Coleman has a chance to be a real star in college football. And so, you take those three guys out, and that's tough to replace. But they have some depth there, and I think they've got a chance to be okay. I really do.
All right, now let's talk about T-Mac. Rumor has it that T-Mac's a good football player. And
really?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Let me write this. Hang on. I got to write this down.
Take your time. Take your time.
T-Mac is a good football player, did you say?
Yep. Take your time, Brian. I see you writing it down. I wish we could zoom in and see Brian putting this on his notes. Because
okay,
again,
I'm using that for the first game.
You should lead with it. T-Mac is a good
Can I
football
quote?
player.
But I'm going to quote you.
Yeah, well, no, do it. No, you just got to quote me on the all-Luke backfield. That's all we need. Then we'll get it from there. But on T-Mac, though, every now and then when you watch somebody at the U of A, there's somebody that comes in here and says that just looks different. that just kind of looks a little bit different. I think you can make the case Chris McAllister looked a little different. Gronk obviously looked different. T-Mac's very much of that you just stand next to him and it's like, whoa, this guy looks, this is a different looking player entirely. T-Mac is just, players like him don't come through here all the time. I'll just put it to you like that.
He looks like an NFL wide receiver, Mike.
Yeah.
That would probably be my best description of him.
Yeah.
He's got all the tools. He's got size, skill, smarts, and now some more experience behind him. So should be an All-American this year, barring injury. I think that the one thing, because we're honest here, right? We're very transparent in our assessment here. There's no Jacob Cowing now on the other side. And so teams now are going to load up defensively on him. So I think the key for Arizona as a team is T-Mac will be T-Mac, okay? What the Wildcats need is some guys to support him. In other words, take some of the attention away from him so that you can't cheat and say, okay, we double team T-Mac or we do whatever we can to take him out of a game. No one else can hurt us. Arizona needs to make sure that they've got some other guys that can hurt them. And I think they do. Again, you go back to the depth situation, and I think that they've got some guys that are going to be able to help out there. And I think that's really important.
Do you want some more help on your show notes?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremiah Patterson, you're going to be calling his name a lot this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Electrifying.
Yeah. Isn't he? I mean,
Yes.
you watch. See, that's one of those things, too. You can't judge a book by its cover. I've spent my whole life dodging that assumption. But when it comes to a Jeremiah Patterson, I don't care that he's a 2-star junior college player. Like you said, Brian, it just looks entirely different when you watch him. He looks like a player that's going to be on the field, and he's going to contribute immediately.
Tremendous moves. That great first step. You love guys when they catch the ball, bang, they know exactly where to go.
Right.
And he's got the speed to back it up. So I'm excited to see him play. I think he's going to be a major surprise for everyone outside the Arizona program to see what he can do.